Today, I'm going to teach you about the hidden power of the letter E in Japanese. Japanese is a crazy language. Anybody who's taken even a little bit of time studying it will quickly realize that there are technically four different writing systems. Chinese characters, hiragana, katakana, and kind of just English as well. And despite how complex that might sound to you, it's actually quite easy to speedrun basic proficiency in Japanese. Now, if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you, then you're a sane human being. Congrats. But let me explain why I think this is. You see, honestly, you really only need one sound, not even a word or anything, to be able to get by in this country. And that's the letter E? Or the sound eh? I know, it's weird, but kind of cool at the same time. If you're unaware of this, Japanese is a high context language. And basically what that means is that you never really have to directly say anything, for the most part. A lot of your meaning is just presumed by your actions. And that's precisely why it's so difficult to attain fluency in Japanese, is because not only do you need to learn the actual words and the language, but you also need to, if you're like me, coming from a low context culture, learn how to communicate in a high context fashion. To highlight just how difficult it is to become fluent in this language, I'll give you an example. You studied really hard and learned how to be able to say that it's cold in this room, right? Like, sumuyo. And you would imagine that when you are speaking to a Japanese person, you could say that, right? But in a more polite sort of scenario or situation, in order to say that this room is cold, you would actually maybe not say anything at all. You might just go and grab a jacket or a blanket in this situation. And if you're around Japanese people or you're being hosted by somebody, then they would observe this, as it is a high context culture and communication style, and potentially offer to make it warmer in the room for you. So in order to speak like a native, you actually, in a lot of instances, say things or do things that indirectly indicate what you actually mean. I like to compare low context cultures and high context cultures to movies and books. You see, low context cultures are like movies, in the sense that you have to detail every aspect of them in order for them to work. Right? You can't just have a movie where it's just audio or just film or no storyline whatsoever, right? You have to detail and explain everything in the process of a movie for you to be able to tell the story appropriately. Whereas high context cultures are more like books. You can leave out a lot of details in your speech and still have what you want to be communicated, understood by the other person. It should be a bit easier to understand that low context and high context cultures and languages operate on entirely different kind of rules and playing fields. In English, very low context language, you really need to spell out everything for someone. Whereas, again, in Japanese, the same sort of effort does not apply. And with this context in mind, here's where things start to get interesting. Because of the fact that Japanese is a high context language, the word can mean just about anything that you want it to mean in Japanese. From the affirmative yes, to a hesitant no, to maybe, to what do you mean, to keep going, to so many other different meanings. Holy crap, it's hot in these things. The only comparable phrase that I can think of off the top of my head in English is maybe something like and where you feasibly can convey lots of different ideas and expressions. But in Japanese, the term is actually a little bit different, because it is something, unlike in English, that you can in fact use with strangers and in more formal settings. Whereas in English, it might be inappropriate for you to or to people that you don't know. And that's just some of the various meanings of the term There's actually a whole lot more contextually that you can do with the term And unlike in English, it's actually an appropriate way that you can go through and address people, even strangers, as long as your body language is respectful and you're doing it in the appropriate context. My God, it kind of feels like I'm in Greece over here. I'm in the middle of Tokyo, but look at this. I don't know. Reminds me of that one, this whole thing reminds me of that one, island in Greece. Now, I'm not recommending that you only use the term when and if you ever come to Japan, but it is one that if you're coming here for a brief period of time and don't really have the ability to go through and learn the language, you can employ it. You can use it in just about any situation for the most part, and you can convey just about any meaning that you want with the term just by modifying your facial expression and your body expression. So now you know all about how powerful the term "e" is in Japanese. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give me a like, a follow. I'm on day 16 of this challenge I got going on with Mudan, which is this cool YouTube guy who's been doing stuff in Tokyo for a little while. I'll see you tomorrow.